Hello everyone, Marianne from Revealing Light Tarot. How are we all today, wherever you are in the world when you're watching? A huge shout out to you. Now, I did say that I wanted to have a look at the lunar eclipse in Taurus on the 19th of November. It is a particularly powerful chart, but what's jumping out at me, of course, is I said I would locate the High Priestess in that chart, and I know where she is, where she's sitting in the chart. I know why she's been coming up, because if you haven't already heard, in the US, we've had one of the, I guess, more dangerous members of the ex-US president's circle. He's now been indicted for contempt of Congress by the US Department of Justice. What this signals to us is that justice is on its way, and the High Priestess comes forward to let us know that there are things that are coming to the surface, that there are things that are hidden. But she's a lot more than that. She has to do with a reality that is changing, a reality that is, I guess, coming to an end. And then we've got lots of things in that chart that is indicating that this indictment is just the first of many things that will be occurring in the US in terms of justice, in terms of the long-awaited justice that we've all been wanting to see when we could see the law being broken in so many ways, and things went unchallenged. We're talking about the insurrection when unchallenged. We have all a vested interest into helping to protect democracy in the US. Each and every one has that, I guess, responsibility, because if it can happen there, it can happen in our own countries. The same forces are left unchecked. Those same forces could very well upend our democracies. So we need to all care about the state of democracy in the US. I want to share the chart and then we'll start to explain. I won't cover everything in the chart. There are a lot of indicators around what is going on in the US at the moment. But I just want to concentrate on a few things. So let's pull the chart up. All right. Okay, so straight away when I look at that chart, I notice still Uranus in Taurus here in the 7th house. In the zodiac, the 7th house, of course, is open enemies, among other things, relationships, not relationships, more so partnerships, or sometimes contractual partnerships as well, as open enemies. And of course, it is opposite Mars, the planet of, rapid forward movement, accelerated forward movement, sometimes aggression in Scorpio. So we know straight away with Uranus in Taurus. Now, Taurus is, if we're going into any sort of challenging period, you want Taurus to be around, because it is a fixed sign, which means that it is there for the long haul. It is there. It will see us through. It is the workhorse of the zodiac. Literally, the oxen or the bull is its symbol. The thing is with the bull is it's very obstinate, and Taurus can be like that too. But as I heard astrologer Rick Levine describe it the other day, when Taurus is harnessed, you've got little chance, I guess, of controlling the bull unless the bull wants to be controlled. But when it's harnessed, it can turn in the right direction. Uranus, to me, the planet of change, unpredictability, it's sitting in Taurus is about steering the oxen forward. And of course, the oxen can pull great loads. What is it pulling at the moment in this chart? it is bringing things to an end. Scorpio, of course, is the sign that we associate with endings and beginnings. And these ending and beginnings have only almost just started. Because I want to talk a little bit about the North Node and South Node moving into Taurus and Scorpio, respectively, in January 2022. The nodes shift from Sagittarius and Gemini, or Gemini North Node, Sagittarius South Node, shift to North Node in Taurus, South Node in Scorpio. So this a partial lunar eclipse is sort of like a forerunner to what we can expect as those nodes transit into these new signs. So whatever has happened around this time of the eclipse can portend some of the conditions that we might see as 2022 unfurls. And of course, what has been the big event here in the US is we're getting a glimpse of how justice might work in the US. Meticulous, painstaking, all ducks in a row, all bases covered justice, because that is what we're talking about when we look at the head of the DOJ, Merrick Garland, a former appeals judge. He will not act unless he is sure that he's on very solid ground. And of course, this action comes immediately after the executive privilege case that the ex-president has brought has been decided, or was decided, in favour of allowing documents to go to the Congress on the January 6th insurrection. The insurrection, the attempt to overturn an election which so far has seen minor types of justice at the lower levels, hasn't netted any of the big movers and shakers, the planners, the funders. We haven't even got there yet. But this gives us a glimpse that we just might get there. So if I go back to this chart, other indications also tend to back this up. So we have the moon, obviously, opposite the sun, the moon just inside Taurus, opposite the sun in Scorpio. As I said, giving us an idea of what might be coming up, the conditions that might be coming up in the future. We've got a blending of energies here in Scorpio, which kind of adds, if you think about it, adds as fuel to what might be coming to an end and what might be beginning. The sun conjunct Mercury, the planet of communication, Mars, of course, really that accelerant. That's like pouring petrol onto a fire here. All of these are opposite the moon and also the North Node in Gemini, which, as I said, goes into Taurus in January 2022. And of course, opposite Uranus in Taurus. So there's a real push, a real squares. When we look at these red lines, which are oppositions and squares here, oppositions, things pulling. There's a huge interaction between these two energies. And I think that's what we're seeing in the US at the moment. Part of this pattern that we've been in since the insurrection, at least beyond that, the last 4 years of the ex-president's presidency. We have another square, or a more difficult, perhaps a bit of a conflict between Jupiter and the moon. Jupiter, of course, expansion, Aquarius, can also be that higher law, that universal law. Almost, now what happens in a lunar eclipse is the Earth comes between the sun and the moon. So there's some kind of message here around getting ourselves back into some sort of balance. And Jupiter in Aquarius is saying, I know the way. Saturn in Aquarius is saying, I know what we have to do. And of course, there's the square with Saturn to Uranus in Taurus. Uranus in Taurus attempting to turn the oxen into a particular way. And what is that way? Bring something to a close. Transform an energy which is no longer in anyone's interest, let alone democracy's interests. As I said at the start of this video, we should all care about the state of the democracy in the US. Jupiter, of course, squaring the Sun, Mercury, and Saturn squaring Mars. What does Saturn do? Saturn says, you got to do the work. You can't get out of this one. You actually have to bring something, to transform something, because if you continue to go a particular way, it's destructive, isn't it? So all of these tensions, all of these conflicts, all of these opposite energies pulling at each other or one another through these planets, these huge energies, is telling us it's the wake-up call. It's more than the wake-up call. It's around taking the action, heading in the direction, and then doing the work, harnessing that oxen to move forward. There's a card in my Revealing Light Oracle deck, which I might be able to easily find, which sort of sums up Taurus energy extremely well. Fields do not get ploughed. We don't accomplish anything unless we're prepared to put in the work. So there it is, willpower. So this is right use of will leads to prosperity. Equally, stubbornness stops progress. This is Uranus in Taurus energy. So equally, stubbornness stops progress. So I think, corporations, others, if governments aren't going to act on something, then corporations, those that are benefiting from a stable, remember Taurus is all about stability, practical stability, they'll take the action that is needed. And so we've got some flowing energies in this chart, which are really interesting as well. You can hear my dog just tapping around on the floor. That's my dog Costa, and he's just having a bit of a sniff around my bedroom. He doesn't normally come into the bedroom, but he's here today. Costa, do you want to sit down? He's like a Dyson vacuum cleaner when he stiffs. Costa, sit down. Come over here and get a pat. Maybe that'll quieten him down. Okay, he doesn't normally sit in my bedroom, but he's lost his best mate. Our dog of nearly 17 years passed away, and Costa was with her from a pup. She was like his surrogate mother. So, I need to let him know that he's not alone, and he's got me. So rather than being on the back step, he's here while I do this reading. All right, back to the harmonious energies that flow in the right direction, that there isn't the tension, there's actually a little bit of help. And these are the blue lines on the astrology chart. I found it quite interesting that Pluto here is harmoniously aspected to the moon in Taurus, but also the north node in Gemini. Because Gemini, communication, the moon, things coming to the surface, emotions coming also to the surface. In the 8th house, again, what's driving our passions? We all want this period of instability to come to some sort of close. We know the only way that can happen is if those who bend the law, break the law, make a mockery of the law, need to be held accountable. There needs to be checks and balances, obviously, on so many things. But I'm just focusing on Washington because this chart is 3:57 a.m., which equates to the 8:57 universal time of the partial lunar eclipse. But in this chart, it's over Washington. It's interesting the ascendant is Libra, because Libra is all about justice. Now I get to the High Priestess. High Priestess. Where would she be in this chart? She's sitting right here in the 5th house of the zodiac. So we've got Neptune in Pisces. Okay. Now, and sitting alongside that, Pallas Athena, of course, she is an asteroid that's associated, or in mythology, associated with justice. So look at the harmonious slingshots, I like to call them. It's like a slingshot is drawn, and we're going to, fire it off here. Neptune in Pisces is harmoniously aspected to the Sun, these three, the Sun, Mercury, and Mars in Scorpio, bringing things to an end. So I heard a really good quote the other day on the Astrology podcast. It's like my Friday night at the movies, that show. If you haven't checked it out, it's on YouTube, the Astrology podcast. I think I watched an old episode, and one of his guests, they were talking about Neptune. It was actually on Neptune. And one of the things that they were tossing about was Neptune's job is to erode the falseness of one's perceptions of reality. Now, remember, whenever we hear Neptune in Pisces described, it's like illusion and delusion. And yeah, I don't like that. I never have liked that description of Neptune. In fact, when I was contemplating my oracle, I actually put this in the number 1 card, the essence of who we are, Neptune in Pisces. And even in hindsight, I thought, why did I do that? Remembering who you are. Because what Neptune does is that it challenges our reality, what we think we know as reality. It also transcends into the spiritual realm. So here we have the High Priestess. And of course, we move beyond what we know of as our structures. They seem to dissolve away. And because we go beyond what we already know with Neptune in Pisces. And there we have the High Priestess. And it is absolutely about exploration and creating something new, because this chart screams to us, we've got to bring certain things to an end, and we've got to envisage something new. So dreaming, imagination. So Pallas Athena there in the 5th house, it is about creativity, artistic expression, self-expression. It's ruled by Leo, but it can also be those eureka moments as well. So the sudden bursts of insight, or coming from a place that is not grounded in this earthly reality. It's grounded in somewhere else. It's grounded in the spiritual realms. It's grounded in our imagination, our ability to dream. Again, this watery energy here. What are we creating? Something that is not yet in form. So Pluto, again, is also well aspected to Mercury in Scorpio. So we're not going to be able to escape what's happening. We're all aware of it, whether we talk about it or whether we don't. We all understand what's at stake at a collective level. And of course, Venus in Capricorn, again, trining that Uranus in Scorpio, Uranus in Taurus. Stability, where do we want things to go? We're talking about the stability of the earth. We're talking about the stability of all of our systems that we live by. Again, Mars in Scorpio, Venus in Capricorn telling us, and of course Capricorn is a cardinal sign. It's an initiator, a beginner. And so we need new systems as well, because the old systems, including monetary systems, are failing us. So that's what I see in terms of justice and the High Priestess and the things that I've read on for so many years now. We're moving into a really interesting time. Events now, political events now are precursors, particularly around the middle of the month from there on in of November, are precursors of what's to come throughout when those nodes shift into Taurus and Scorpio. At another level, when I look at this chart, but it's probably for a separate reading, we are all worried. I can see trends here around the Great Resignation. People want more. Vesta, of course, in Sagittarius, the Sun and Mercury in the second house of possessions. What traditionally rules the second house is Taurus. So people want stability, they want financial security, and they want a bigger slice of the pie. Capricorn, we're not done with that energy, nor should we be. And I think that will be one of the themes that will continue into next year, is the state of the economy, is the inflationary levels, is the unemployment levels, the wages stagnation. People are saying they want more. They're not satisfied to be in this situation any longer. Everything is being shaken up, and that's what this chart is telling us. Okay, so let me just stop the share and we'll pull some cards. So, I say this about astrology. You don't really need to know that much other than to know that astrology explains a lot of how the universe is structured. It explains a lot around karmic lessons, the karmic cycles. It picks up the energy, that nebulous energy that we are before we come here, all the way through the soul's development is what it explains. And that's why I'm so drawn to it. You can have 10 different astrologers read that chart, but I read it that way because I am very motivated to understand, because this is the Sagittarian in me, to understand the whole cycle, not just bits of it, but what happens before we come in, what happens here, what happens after we leave, and then the whole picture, because that's what makes sense of the senseless to me. All right, let's pull some tarot. I'm using my Gilded Tarot around what are some of the lessons, or what are some of the underlying energies of this eclipse. Because, politics is really a metaphor for society, or society might be a metaphor for politics. The two things aren't divorced, and they are around our learning, our collective learning, our collective evolution. And that chart is an evolutionary chart. It's an evolutionary chart. When that north node moves into Taurus and the south node into Scorpio, we're bringing in our knowledge of how to end old cycles and how to move through to new ones, better ones. Okay, the Two of Swords just jumped out. Crossroads time. Crossroads, decisions to be made. Whose side are you going to stand on? There's my dog again. I'm sure that Spirit doesn't mind him being in here. Okay, let's have a look at what does the lunar eclipse, hold on, sit down. It is all worth it to have him in here. All right. Okay, we've got the Ace of Swords falling out, the truth, actualizing the truth. And that's the thing about Taurus, is that it won't be deterred from the truth. It will not be deterred from the truth. In fact, I wonder if Merrick Garland, someone gave me his chart. We don't have his time of birth. Let me just have a look. I'm wondering what Taurian energy is there. Yeah, okay. Looks like his Jupiter is in Taurus. My goodness me. His Jupiter is in Taurus. Remember, Jupiter is expansion. It is the wheel of fortune. It is change. Oh, yes, and his sun is in Scorpio. So for those that, you know, worried, Merrick Garland is the right person for the job. All right. What is the lunar eclipse in Taurus on the 19th of November? What is the lunar eclipse in Taurus teaching us? Yeah, well, patience is one thing. There's nothing quick about Taurus. It is slow moving. Now we've got the Hanged Man energy here, looking at things in a different way. He's losing a whole lot of coins, a whole lot of pentacles are dropping out of his pockets. He's hung up, forced to look at things in a different way. He is in trance, snapping out of the trance, waking up, the wake-up call. And we've got the Eight of Cups as the other signifier card, bringing things to an end. This actually is Scorpio energy. The Eight of Cups is leaving behind what no longer serves us. What no longer serves us. You know how you can go along with the best of intentions, knowing that you've got to bring something to an end, not quite being sure, perhaps even being a bit confused about it. But the confusion is there for you to find your way through it. You've got to have you've got to have confusion to get clarity, to find clarity. And what brings us that clarity out of confusion is undeniable truths. So we are being forced to wake up. This is the wake-up call for all of us. Five of Cups is loss, is regret, it's loss of life. You know, every time I read, it's impossible not to think about those that have passed away from during the pandemic, the relationships that have been battered and bruised, and you know, because Venus is all about relationships in Capricorn. It might be time to initiate new relationships, particularly if you regret some action to repair relationships. In the past, we have the Four of Cups. I mean, this is all sort of like Scorpio in that chart, all of those planets and the sun in Scorpio, Mars and Mercury. It's hard to disguise, and I'm not going to even attempt to disguise the disappointment that we feel, that you feel, that I feel, or you feel, I feel. It's hard to disguise that because we look on and we just get so disenchanted, regardless of whatever your political persuasion or belief system. You know what I'm talking about. There's been this sense of disappointment. The Eight of Swords is crowning this reading. So this is stepping outside of our own anxiety levels. You know, often we can be obstinate because of fear, but this is a fear of our own making. And these are prisons easily walked through. So it's like an inertia. An inertia is being pierced. Page of Pentacles, moving forward in the immediate future. This is, you know, also around that we're craving financial stability as well. We're seeing the unfairness of the system, those that game the system, and the system not working for us. But this is also information coming forward that allows us to come forward. It's like a piece of our security is realized. Maybe that's the eureka moment that Neptune in Pisces is bringing through. It's coupled with that Uranus in Taurus energy. You know, people will be looking at other ways to make money. They don't necessarily want to work 9 to 7 o'clock at night, 6 days a week for a paltry salary. They might be looking to go into their own business, or the society, or the way that society has been structured is changing for all sorts of reasons. So we have the moon here in the here and now. This would be validation, spirit's validation, around the lunar eclipse being extremely important. And what does the moon card tell us? The moon card talks about the things coming to the surface, things emerging from the deep watery depths. And of course, Scorpio is another fixed sign. And so if you think about the water signs as, well, Scorpio as water that hasn't found its depth yet, is searching for its depth. So we've got work to do. We've got a long way to go to bring what needs to be purged almost, because there's a purging energy to this card to bring it up and purge it. The Three of Pentacles working together. Again, you know, Pentacles, how to repair the system. So while, you know, justice is there as well, part of justice has been, you know, that Pluto in Capricorn and the Saturn and Jupiter moving into Aquarius and teaching us lessons around how our systems are set up for corruption. So things coming to the surface. We're learning a lot. It doesn't matter which country you live in. If the system isn't clean, your political system isn't clean, you're going to find out about it. The Six of Wands in the hopes and fears, what we need to do to be victorious. I was thinking the other day with COP26, a lot to be disenchanted about, but the fact that they're all there, 200 countries needing to come to an agreement, to even think about coming to an agreement is an achievement. We want them to succeed. We want these initiatives to succeed. Why? We want stability. Venus is, you know, closest to our Earth, Gaia energy. Venus, of course, rules Taurus. Going back to that chart, open enemies. We're seeing who are our enemies. And why does that even matter? Because it allows us then to make firm decisions about which way we want to go. At the very personal level, leaving behind what no longer serves you, leaving those behind that no longer serve you, leaving habits, patterns that no longer serve you behind. But at the bigger picture, leaving behind what no longer serves us. Scorpio, the Death card. What is this eclipse teaching us about? It's teaching us about endings. It's teaching us about what we need to do to bring cycles to a close. Scorpio, 8th house, Pluto energy transforming something. Oh my goodness me. I've just got chills, as they say. The outcome, oh my goodness me. The outcome cards. What is the eclipse teaching us? Endings and beginnings. The need to transform, to close off old cycles, to begin again. This isn't going to happen, hey presto. Taurus doesn't work like that. Neither does Scorpio. We've got a way to go, a depth to dive to. What is the underlying energy? The Tower card. Breaking down those old structures. Remember, the High Priestess, Neptune in Pisces, sitting alongside Pallas Athena, Justice. We will find a way. We are steering the oxen, that is Taurus, aka Taurus. We are steering the oxen in the right way. It's the only way. At a more mundane level, this is the insurrection, and that's where I started. Such a terrible, 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 horrible thing to witness. A democratic election attempted to be, the ex-president, attempting to overturn an election result in the biggest democracy in the world. An insurrection at the Congress. That is serving to unearth, even though, you know, we're like this, it's serving up to as this huge wake-up call. Wake up, wake up. We've got to leave behind. We've got to end this old cycle. We've got work to do. We've got the stamina. Taurus has the stamina to do it. Scorpio can find its level, the level it needs to go to understand, to experience and understand, and the work that needs to be done. What are we doing? We're transforming, and we're reaching this new start. So certain events are going to be quick now, and certain events are going to be more slow moving. It's just going to go like that. So I'll leave it there. I'll get back to my dog, who actually, Costa, who just wants to get out of the room. And I'll leave it there, and I'll see you again soon. I hope you enjoyed this reading, because I mean, I just look at that chart. I look at those cards. I blend the two along with the clairvoyance, the spiritual connection. And I don't know, they're powerful for me, and I hope they're powerful for you. Thank you for joining me. Bye for now.